yourself as a successful business owner and you are interested in tapping into the international trade market. So you decide, you know what, I'm gonna go to Egypt, Turkey, or Dubai. And then when you get there, you find out they're like, oh, there's these Rolex watches for $500 if you get 5 of them. And you know Rolexes in the United States are $10,000. So you know, I'm gonna make big money if I sell in the US, so you go ahead, spend the $500, and you bring it to the United States. Unbeknownst to you, you just violated international trade laws. So imagine the shock when US Customs knocks at your door and they say, now you owe us $50,000. Because according to the international trade law, if you bring a counterfeit item, you pay the actual value of the watch. So the watch actual value of the Rolex is $10,000. So they don't care if you only spend $100 on it. They care that is a counterfeit, and now you have to pay $10,000 per watch, which makes it $50,000. Can any of us in this room afford that kind of financial loss? Hi. So these scenarios are not uncommon with countless of importers, but this does not have to be your story. Phoenix Global, my company, is here to protect you and make your importing process easier. Hi, my name is Sumaya Jibril. I'm a risk mitigator in international trade. I have over a decade of experience in international trade and with 4 years of distinguished service with US Customs and Border Protection. Phoenix Global, my company, we have experienced customs broker that would help you with importing and exporting, and we're not just helping you import, but at the same time, we're giving you a sense of safety and security. So join me to learn about how to import into the United States, how to make money, and you don't have to just go by the money that you just make in the United States. There's just so much more, and I'm really happy that I'm able to share it with this community. So what is importing? Importing is when you bring goods to the United States. There are 2 types. There's personal and there's commercial. Personal is if, let's say you want to go overseas and you bring shoes, that's personal. And if it's under $800, it's duty free. So if you go overseas and you smuggle those shoes or that extra clothes because you're scared that you're gonna have to pay duty, you don't. And then if it's commercial, these are products you bring to the United States to sell them at a store, to your neighbors, to your friends, and they have a lot of profit. A good example would be when I went to Egypt maybe a couple months ago. I got really nice abayas. Egypt is beautiful. It's really cheap, sad for the people, but profitable for the people in the US. And items that you buy, excuse the noise, I wasn't expecting. Items that you buy over there, it could be sold about 2 to 3 times the profit. And that's why I'm here to teach you today. So my company, we are an import and export consulting. One of the things we do with risk mitigation is the government is really eager to charge you money. So they put everything on you. You're the importer, you're the exporter, you are responsible no matter what. You could hire a licensed broker and you're still responsible. And they make the trade and regulation so complex that you're bound to make mistakes. And that's where we come in, where to make sure that you just are confident in your business, you do your work, and we deal with the complexities for you. Among other things is I have this handbooks of bundles where you're like, if you can't afford the full service per hour, then we create videos for you, how to import handbooks. We were just doing about how to import a dog. In this country, they love their dogs. So there's a lot of restrictions when you bring them from overseas. So things like that to make sure that the community can benefit. So there are a few checklists that you have to do before you buy these products. You have to make sure who the seller is. So for example, if you're getting products from Egypt or you're sending it to them, you have to screen that individual. Because if that individual turns out to be in a terror list or because they violated import-export laws and they're put on a restricted list, then you are considered breaking these trade laws. And they're like, okay, you violated this, this person is on the denied list, now you owe us this much money. And it could also be criminal penalties. And that's, again, that's where we come in. I know it seems so complex, and it is, but that's why I'm here, to make it easier for you. But I want you to be an informed importer when you're starting a business in the United States. And then of course we talked about making sure that your product is a personal or commercial. Like I said, you can bring up to $800 worth of products to the United States without paying duties. So don't try to smuggle goods into your luggage or cover it with clothing and stuff, because even though you don't have to pay duties for it, but if they catch you trying to sneak it in, then you get punished for sneaking in these products. So you could bring up to $800, and because the dollar is very expensive overseas, you can use that money, like when you buy these products, you could benefit a lot from it without paying a lot of duties at the border. One of the other things is if you, let's say, a lot of people want to do e-commerce, right? We say, okay, you want to do e-commerce, then you have to ask the person you're buying from who's going to be responsible for shipping costs. Because right now we're in a process of bringing soaps to the United States from Morocco. So the person was like, I want to spend $500. And I was like, okay, let me do the shipping calculation for you. If you're spending $500 for the soap and it's 24 kilogram of weight, the shipping cost is about $264. And then because I'm clearing your goods for you at the border, you're paying me the $250. And then you have to pay duties about $31, because they're like, we're processing your merchandise anyway to get your money. So it ended up being $1,000, where they're like, okay, so then how am I gonna make a profit? Then that's where it comes in. Then you have to decide how much you want to sell your products for in the United States. So we'll be able to help you with that. So there are a lot of things to consider before bringing your products to the United States. And then there are various shipping methods. One is cargo, air, and trains. But because we're talking international trade, we're gonna go with cargo, which is ocean and air. So if you do cargo, it takes a lot longer, maybe like 3 weeks, but it's a lot cheaper. But if you do air, it could be in a couple days. My parents actually do that, but it's a lot more expensive. It's about, if you go with FedEx, it's about $6.50 per kilogram, and they require you to have at least 30 kilogram of product in the boat or like in the air to bring it to the United States. But if you do cargo, it's a lot cheaper. It's about 30% cheaper to do so. So if your product is not in a rush, you're getting a luggage or textile, I recommend getting a boat. And my company works with shipping lines and freight forwarders. Those are the people, the middleman, to be able to help you bring these goods to the United States to make sure you get a good deal. They're trusted, because you could work with a freight forwarder, but if you don't tell them, they could bring it to the US, but if you don't tell them, hey, I need you to forward this product to, let's say, to my address, then your product will just be held up in customs. It will be held up in customs, and then you still have to pay the waiting fees for those storages. So that's where, again, I come in from the beginning to end, where I'm like, okay, this is what you need to do. I just inform you. You don't have to do anything. I'm like, I want this paperwork from you. I want these forms from you. I want these licenses from you. And all you have to do is relax and let me handle it. And it just makes it easier. But you always, always have to be informed. Don't worry, this is on purpose so you guys don't get distracted while I'm talking from reading the screen. But thank you for looking at it. Like I said, we just need to be cautious about handling costs and transportation, and we'll be able to make sure, because you're our community, our Muslim community, we make sure that you get the best deal and you're not cheated in the process, because it's not always ethical. And that's where I guess Islam comes in to help me out and keep me like in the moral, in the like straight road, where it's just like, okay, does this follow Islamic guidelines? Does the people I'm working follow Islamic guidelines? And that I found that to be very helpful, to stay ethical and in a straight line. It's very difficult. And then like a lot of people do internet purchases, like you do. Has anybody used Alibaba before? You did? How long did your product take to come? I did
not end up buying, because it was was not a real business.
It's not real business?
Well, I mean, at least the one in China. So
The
I was
one in
not
China.
familiar with Alibaba, but I learned later that this
Yeah.
business does not exist.
It's not
And
gonna-
I'm glad that
They ended up cheating you?
kind of, but the transaction didn't go through.
It didn't go through, alhamdulillah. What about you? You said you used it?
Yeah, it was 20 days.
20 days? What did you order, if you don't mind me asking?
It was a product for Amazon FBA.
Okay.
I used to do business for Amazon.
Yeah.
And I used to sell some medical products. So yeah, it was good.
It's good?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So one of the things that happens is just people scam you a lot. They're like, we're gonna get your products here fast. They scam you, and they're like, well, if you pay us extra. One of the things they're like, oh, there's diplomatic pouches. Here they are. If you just pay this amount, we're gonna get your money. But don't worry, like, it's gonna be really fast. So when I was working with U.S. Customs, a lot of calls that I used to get was, hey, I just gave this individual $10,000 because they said, if you don't pay, you're gonna go to jail. Custom told me, I was like, we don't threaten people. We communicate people via letters, not phone calls, unless we're like calling you. Like if you're gonna go to jail or there's some issue, then that's like you should be scared if U.S. Custom calls you. But everything else, it's via letter. So be careful with scams. The government doesn't threaten you. There's no diplomatic pouches. So please be careful.
Actually, there are diplomatic pouches, but they're used by the embassies.
Yes, but with the diplomats.
I mean, yeah, embassies.
That's what they use. Yeah, they use those things. But are you a diplomat, ma'am? So that's one of the things we ask is like, if you're not a diplomat, just like don't. I know they get to you, but don't listen to them. We talked about just clarifying the delivery arrangements and making sure you trust the seller. Oh, one of the best things that we do is we have a screening program. Especially when you're exporting outside the United States. There was a company, it's called Intavica Incorporated. They were in the United States and they had another company in California. So what they did was they sent their servers, their own technology, just schematics, inside the United States to them. And then, of course, the government, they came and knocked on their door. They're like, you owe us $110,000. They're like, for what? They're like, you exported outside the United States. They're like, no, we didn't. Our company's in the United States. They're like, no. The individuals that were working for you in California, they are Russian individuals. Because they are not licensed to look at your schematics, and it is a national security issue to share U.S. technology with other individuals, even if they're in the United States, it is considered an export. There's an incident of this big corporation where he was exporting products like a micro circuits to China. But instead of labeling them micro circuits, he said computer parts. They caught up to him five years later, and they were like, you owe us $1.1 million, and you're gonna go to jail for 8 years. Because he mislabeled those products, and because we're in a trade war with China, they do not play with that. So we really have to be careful because most of us are immigrants, and it's known, like in the States, we're not really looked at with bright and confident eyes. So if they're gonna catch up to, the white Americans and punish them that way, imagine how much they're gonna punish us.
How did they find out?
How did I find out?
How did they find out?
How'd they find out? So with this situation, a lot of people are like, how are they gonna know? Like if I just take my servers outside the United States, how are they gonna know? Somebody can snitch on you when they're upset with you. And when you end up using these products, there's a lot more spies than you guys would like to know. And once you start using these products, they monitor it. And they would be like, okay, this is a US part. What is it doing in that part of the world? And they track you. It could take 1 year, it could take 5 years, it could take 10 years, but they end up catching up to you and they will punish you heavily. So that's why before anybody takes goods outside the United States, I make sure that I screen the people, not just the people that work for them, anybody that's going to interact with technology. So if I'm taking this laptop outside the United States for work purposes and it breaks down, I will, and then the people who go to, thank you. Sure. The people who go to fix this laptop before they do it, I have to do screening for them to make sure they're not in the denied party list. They're not on a terrorist list organization. They didn't violate any trade laws. It's all my responsibility as an importer and exporter to be able to do that. So if they don't, they're like, so when you say, well, I didn't know, so you cannot claim ignorance when it comes to importing and exporting, especially with technology, especially now that AI is out. The Biden administration, they do consider it international national security risk. So you really have to be careful. I'm happy to do the screening for you, for yourself, your employees, or anybody that's going to interact with the technology, server, information, or source codes that you share outside of the United States. So when it comes with, if you bring goods through the U.S. Postal Office, you would have to pay them, like when the product comes in, you pay the duty for it at the moment. And then if it's more than $2,500, they highly recommend you get a customs broker, hence our company helps with that. If it's below $2,500, you're good.
Would you prefer this?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Because you're moving.
I'm moving. One second. Thank you. Just put it.
Yeah, you just.
Would you look at that? So cool. If it's under $2,500, you could do it yourself, but I highly discourage you from doing so because the United States has this thing called free trade agreements. One of them is Morocco. Some goods that are coming from Morocco, you don't have to pay duties for. But if you didn't know that, you go ahead and just put a classification on your own, on a code. It could be 10, it could be 15. Now you just ended up paying for duty that you didn't have to. And that's where we come in to advise you, like, you don't have to pay duty for this. Or if you can get the same product from a country where there's a trade agreement, I would advise you on that. Like, just get it from here, and then you don't have to pay as much duty. If you bring products from China, that's 25% extra duty that you have to pay. But there are a lot of products in China that you can get from Vietnam, which you don't have to deal with the trade wars that's happening between the United States and China. And then with couriers like DHL and FedEx, when you bring, like my parents, they bring their products using DHL and FedEx. So DHL and FedEx, they have their own in-house brokers. But the thing, they would clear the goods for you, but you never interact with those brokers. So if my parents, let's say they bring 5 boxes of clothes, they usually bring from Turkey and Dubai. They admit to themselves, they're like, I'm most likely gonna lose one package, like one big box, that could be like $1,000. They're just like, it's just part of the business. My thing is that it shouldn't be. Because I'll be like, I will arrange the shipments from the beginning to end for you so that you don't have to just say, hey, it's just loss of business. And then when they're trying to call FedEx or DHL, then they're just like making them go like hours waiting, or they can't reach a real person, and they're just frustrated and they just let it go. And obviously that makes me sad because they're my parents, and it just makes me think how many other people are dealing with this. So for me, that's one of the things that motivated me to start the company is like, if you call, you will reach me, or you will reach my closest team members, but at the end of the day, I'll come and just make sure I overlook what's happening with your business to make sure that you're not waiting on lines or there is improper paperwork and your goods are not just held up by customs. And working with customs helps me to deal, I was like, okay, if I give them this paperwork, then your goods don't have to be stuck at the border for 45 business days. So one of the things is, you guys don't get those forms when you fly from overseas that says declaration form? You guys had that? Yeah. Everything you bring from overseas has to be declared. It doesn't mean you're gonna pay duty for it, but they just wanna know the food, the clothing, the shoes you're bringing is not gonna endanger either the crops of the United States or the market in the United States. One of the things is it's called anti-dumping. Countries like China and Vietnam, what they do is their own government helps them out. They give them tons of money to support them, and so they can sell their products cheaper than the United States. So if you're a US store that sells textile or clothing or any type, and then you're like selling it for $20 a shirt, But because they get their government's help, they sell for 5, so they undercut the market. That impacting the U.S. economy, impacting the small business owner. So the United States government charges them extra, like 25%, 30%, 45% duties, so that you guys are on equal footings. So they want to make sure when you do bring these products that it's not going to endanger U.S. products. And especially with food. I know we love our food from overseas, but I'm here to tell you, let the agricultural department see it to make sure that it's okay. Because one thing that gets into our crop can destroy, like if it's a very dangerous thing, it could destroy the whole crops and by in turn destroy the U.S. economy. So let them check it, bring a sample, have the agriculture department check it, and then you don't have to worry about smuggling it in. You could just get an approval from them, and you could just bring it in. It's that easy. I know it's scary, but just trust that they're doing what's best for us and for America. 90% of the time. But with trade, you can trust them. They care about U.S. economy.
So if you're doing import clothing, you have to declare that as well?
Yes, you just declare them. If it's less than $800, you're barely gonna get charged anything. Especially if it's from like Egypt, Turkey, or Morocco, like barely. Like the soaps that I'm bringing from Morocco, they're 0% duty. So all I do, like, I bring it. I only have to pay $31 so they could just process the merchandise, but it's duty free, and I could just bring it. So there's a lot of products that are duty free if you just stop being scared and check, and then like, oh, let me help you check. Actually, my website, that's info@hgslookup.com. I got you guys' email, so I'm gonna send you that information. You could go there, and you could put whatever product you want. You could put phones, you could put shoes, you could put jacket, and say, so it will tell you what duty rate it is, if it's allowed to be here, and just give you the information you need to make an informed decision before bringing those goods to the United States, to make it easier for you. So that's the website. Like I said, it helps you with classification. They will want to make sure that the price is worth the merchandise. And like I said, you as the importer and exporter are solely responsible for things you bring and take outside the United States. With customs, you can face seizure, forfeiture, and penalties. They love their penalties. Anything they can find, they're like, here, we're charging you. And I don't like that, especially with small businesses, so that's why I do what I do. We talked about freight shipping. All right, so imagine this scenario again. You diligently saved $15,000. And you said, you know what? These are the last $15,000 of my business, and I'm gonna invest it by bringing products from overseas. But then, when your products come to the United States, U.S. Customs says, we're gonna hold your products for 45 business days. That's 84 to 90 days regular, because you didn't file the paperwork correctly. That's a nightmare scenario that no business owner should face, because you have angry customers. Then because customs is holding it due to your own fault, you have to pay storage every day that your product is in U.S. Customs. And it's gonna impact your business. But now, imagine this scenario, where you enlist Phoenix Global as your expert to help you with this. We make sure your employees are trained, your paperwork are filed, and your customers are happy, and your shipment arrives on time. And at Phoenix Global, we specialize in turning nightmare scenarios into success stories. Enlist us with all your import and export needs so you can just grow confidently, run your business. You can have the safety and security that you need to navigate this beautiful and successful import and export industry. I want all of you guys to join the international trade market, and I'm here to help you every step of the way. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
I'm new to this.
Go ahead.
I'm here for the information.
Sure.
So I was just curious, like, when is it better to put it in their money, or is it better to have a bank in that country you're dealing with, or how do you handle that?
So mostly I've been dealing with the Middle Eastern countries. So with Egypt, last time I was there, the $1 was like 50 pounds. So it's best that you pay with Egyptian pounds. You get a lot more money than your buck. And then like before, the black market was better, but now that Egypt's economy is increasing, thank God, the banks are better than the black market. So definitely go to the bank, take your passport, and they will just exchange the dollar with the Egyptian pound, and you can go and purchase. And then what is that called? There's a place called the Ataba, right? You can go there, and that's where I got those dresses, those abayas for really affordable prices. And there's abayas, there's shoes, there's purses, but be careful, they're not counterfeit. They're gonna get you. But other than that, as long as they're not brand names, bring them and they will go a lot of ways here in the United States. If you could just purchase an abaya for, I don't know, $20 and you sell it here $35, that's pretty good, you know? And it's like you benefit a lot from it. Yes, sir?
Can you talk about a little bit export? If somebody wants to do export.
Yes, so the export market is really, really big right now. But where would you like to export? Give me a country.
Let's say car parts.
Car parts? Oh, that's amazing. My favorite topic. Okay, so car parts are being exported to Libya, Dubai, and I believe Qatar. And there was Iraq, but there is a situation right now where it's at halt because of the Yemen Houthis that's happening. But when you want to export, we have a shipping freight forwarders that work with you. You just go like, I want to ship like these car parts, and I own them. You show them proof that you own these car parts. There are documentation that you have to follow from customs. I could provide that to you to make sure like you got the title. If it's a salvaged car, like how did you get it? You need a certification form. They just need to confirm that you're an actual owner of this product and you're not just taking people's products and taking them outside the United States. But it's pretty easy. You call us, we help you to process the shipment and make sure you fill out the proper information for exporting a vehicle, and then your vehicle or the car parts are outside the United States and you make money. But you just make sure you have to have a buyer there.
But you also can give the cost of shipping. How much?
The cost of shipping, generally, it depends. It depends on the country, but it could go from, it's usually cargo, like ship. So $3,500 to $4,000 to $5,000. A container, yes.
Do you specialize in import exports for countries that do not deal with the U.S. as well? Like if I wanted to export from Africa to Asia, would that be something that you could assist with?
So what I could do in that perspective is I could do the market research for you of what Asia will require from you, what Asian country requires from you, and what the country in Africa requires from you. And I'd be like, this is the duties you have to pay. That's where the consulting comes in. Like, these are the duties for Asia, this is the duties for Africa, and this is the paperwork you need to file to be able to do that. I don't advertise it, but people ask for it, I go ahead and do it. Yes.
Yes, I have a question in regards to importing food to the U.S.
Okay.
There's something called Foreign Supplier Verification Program.
Yes.
I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yes.
But if you can just elaborate more on that, like as an importer of food into the U.S., what do you need to ensure that the producer of food in that foreign country, let's say for example Yemen, has to meet like the U.S. Laws when it comes to manufacturing food locally here.
Okay, so the agency that handles importing food is the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA.
Right.
So there's certain requirements for foods coming to the United States that you need to comply with. You got to make sure that the foreign entity complies with. And they need to show proof of that. So what we do is, let's say you have an entity in Yemen that you want to bring. What would you want to bring?
Coffee.
Coffee?
For example, coffee, you deal with farmers. Farmers, so now the U.S. is saying, hey, whatever laws applies to the U.S. Food, manufacturer,
Yeah.
it has to be, applied, in Yemen. But in Yemen, for example, you're dealing with farmers, so it's just, difficult on, to ensure how the U.S. law is met by those Yemeni farmers?
Okay, so what we do is like, so customs has this thing where they do case by case scenarios. So let's say you're like, okay, we're talking with customs. Part of the perks of being in having a broker interface and access to the customs brokerage is that you can actually directly communicate with customs. So you're saying, okay, this is what I have, and this product is coming from Yemen, and this is the area in Yemen, and they're farmers. Give me a ruling. And U.S. Customs, they might not have it in the regulation now, but we can request a ruling for you bringing your products to the United States from that specific part of Yemen, and they would be like, oh, give us a sample. So you would bring those samples, I would hand it to Customs, and the Agriculture Department, the USDA, would inspect the coffee from part of that world. As long as it does not, like I said, affect our crop or the United States, they would like, okay, the ruling is that we approve that you bring these coffee from Yemen, or no, we don't approve. So before you even bring all those shipments, we will get a ruling for you from U.S. Customs to approve you to bring these products to the United States.
Right, how about like, as far as like a facility inspection, for example, for,
Because they're farmers,
yes, farmers, and then, they bring, their coffee, products, and then this, coffee has to be processed and peeled off, and then
Yeah.
you get the green beans, and then you get
that's why the samples are necessary.
Right, so that facility, probably, the US or the, FDA would want, some type of like, evidence as to how, this coffee has been, processed and treated and stored, and temperature and all of those,
Yes.
complications.
I do.
Yes, and so, as, US importer, how do you collect, so does your company, for example, like, will communicate with that facility, in Yemen, and just, make sure that they do, qualify, or they meet the FDA, demands as to this, ruling?
I understand the question. Yes. So what we do is we get a list of the FDA requirements and the USDA, the Agriculture Department. I have a list. I would look at it in front of me, and then you tell me these are the companies in Yemen, the farmers. I call them up. I'm like, okay, this is what we require from you. Send me these pictures that show that you're complying, and send me your process. And I'm like, I need you to document a procedure of how you peel your coffees, how you prepare them, and I need picture evidence. You need the samples, no matter what, no matter how much evidence they bring you, you need to bring the samples to the United States. You don't have to pay duty for them. So we would show the sample plus the documentation to the government, and then based on that, they decide if you can bring these goods to the United States. And I would walk you through it every step of the way. Okay, yes.
I had a quick question, just to kind of like touch base. I know you mentioned like your background a little bit, but like, how did you gain all the expertise that you did?
Oh, that's a good question. So she was asking, how did I gain all the experience that I have? First, I grew up with my parents. Since I was a kid, my dad was like going to Saudi, bringing goods, and then he came to the United States, same thing. And now they're officially like, both of them quit their jobs and like importing full time. And then after I joined the military, after I got out, man, we used to do logistics in the service, because we bring shipments, weapons, goods, so that you learn from that. And then when I left the military, I joined as an intern with U.S. Customs, and they're like, because I'm amazing, they were like, we're gonna hire you right away, 3 months mark. And I got hired, I worked with them for 4 years. I dealt with every customer that, whether it's purses, textile, chemical, pharmaceutical, having questions, us holding their products. Just because dealing with people for full 4 years, discussing with them, that definitely gave me the experience. And then when I left with Customs, I went to work for a supply chain company because I wanted to see what the other side is like. And then I realized how mean we were to these individuals, and I gained a little bit more empathy. And because the government puts you in circles, and I was a part of it, but now I understand because I'm on the other side. But getting the corporate, the government, growing up in a supply chain family, that really helped me shape me into who I am now. And I always do continuing education. I took the broker license exam and I passed it. So that's like, the passing rate for that exam is 15%. And it is harder than the bar exam. And because I was studying for like 3 months straight with my neck down in the computer, I actually got neck spasm. I actually got a shot the other day. That's how hard I was studying, because it's how difficult. the exam was, but it was worth every second, every penny, because it's so challenging, you never get bored, and you get to help people, and this is a very niche industry that not everybody's in, so it makes you different. Thank you for your question. Yes?
Right, first of all, thank you very much for introducing Phoenix to us and how important it can be for the business. That being said, do you have any kind of course or certification program from Phoenix where we can learn the business from scratch?
Yes, we definitely do. So that's one of the things that I'm gonna actually have a LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live, where I'll be like how to import a certain specific, like a specific textile. Or one of the other things is like how to import balanga. It's like I'm doing small courses, but I'll keep that in mind to make sure that I create the actual content from A to Z, so you'll be able to have that knowledge. But yeah, the knowledge is available. That's actually really motivating. Thank you. I'll get on that.
Would you say certain things you import in terms of the business is cost friendly towards the business itself? So for example, if I'm looking at starting a business and then choosing an item to export and export, are some items more profitable, but it also just depends on me and how I sell it in terms of looking at my cost margins?
Yes, so for example, phones in the United States are a lot cheaper than they are in Egypt. They're just a lot overpriced because it's hard to get like technology down there, or like quality, like US technology. I've noticed because I was just like, okay, if I sell them there, that's like it costs more, so it wasn't beneficial for me to take phones over there because it's a lot cheaper here. But textiles from Turkey here, they are sold at a much better price, hence the Somali fashion store. As you can see, they filled it up because it's much more reasonable to get it from them. There are certain things where, because I traveled to Turkey earlier last year, and I was like, oh, I want to bring products to you guys. And then we were like, after back and forth, they were like, we don't want any products from you guys because everything that the United States has is very expensive. But we can create the product that you want from us, and then you can bring it to the United States and sell it because the dollar is higher. So in most part of the world, the dollar is bigger, especially the Middle East. So it's important that you bring goods from the Middle East. But if you go in the European market, like our jeans, our Levi, they love those. And people actually come from like the UK, Australia to buy the goods here, the jeans, to sell them overseas.
So a business, for me, in terms of just not knowing any knowledge on the business itself, what would you say would require before I even choose a product to begin with, I need to have and set aside for starting this business?
Good question. Market research. First and foremost that I've noticed business owners miss is the market research. The question that I ask is like, who's your client? They'll be like, everybody. I'm like, you're setting yourself and your business up for failure. Everybody could not be your client. You have to niche down, pick who they are and how you can reach them. Are they willing to spend the money? And if the product that you're already thinking of, are they going to bring it? Because they're already here, you know? One of the things is like, I don't know if you put your information there. I will share my information with you guys too, and then just email me, and then I'll send you like a template to what I did when I was creating my business plan. It tells you step by step where you go into talking to clients, doing the market research, getting reports, your NICS codes, all that stuff. I'll be able to send it to you to help you get started. Sounds good? Yes, you're welcome.
So earlier you was talking about being careful about dealing with like sanctioned countries.
What is it? I'm talking to you.
You was talking about being careful when you deal with sanctioned countries
Yes.
when you're importing and exporting.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that pertain if the origin may be from a sanctioned country, but it is not being sold or shipped from a sanctioned country?
That's a great question. That's where we come in, because when you tell us, hey, I want to bring this product, but it's coming from Morocco, that's what is called as country of origin. So we have to check. So we have our own system where we're like, okay, I'm talking to I'm in the broker interface, I'm putting your product in, and I'm like, this is the HTS code, it's coming from this country. And then I would be like, no, this is not from Morocco, it's actually from Vietnam. And then in the product that you bring in, if you're gonna bring it, it has to say like where it's made. that actually does. If you don't have like where it says like made in this country, they won't allow you to bring it. Rarely will they allow you to bring it. So that's where we do the research to make sure the country that you're bringing it from is actually where it's from.
What about if it's not coming to the United States?
Where is it going?
Let's say, for example, you're getting scrap metal and you're shipping it to Thailand, right? But the scrap metal is being sold from a company in Dubai, but the origin is in Iran. The United States and Iran has sanctions against
They do.
each other, but because even though it's not coming from Iran, but I am an American company, does that still affect me?
Yes, yes it does. Because you're a US citizen or you have an American company and you're benefiting from the United States, you can't, if you go ahead and even like export externally, you'll still be charged. Because they're like Iran, China, Russia, they're like mortal enemies. So as soon as you go ahead and do that, they're gonna label you somebody who's supporting a terrorist organization. So it's not just money, it's prison time after that. So we would be able to do that screening for you. Yes.
So it's real hard to move advanced manufacturing goods, exporting to those countries over there.
Yes, if you're a US citizen and you have a US company,
Right.
you really have to be careful with sending it to Iraq, Iran,
I'm not
yeah,
talking about countries that's, on that level.
yeah.
It's more like countries like Libya, Algeria, Bangladesh, so forth and so on. Tunisia, Morocco, countries that are not in the United States.
Yes,
Hard to do this.
it depends. That's where we have to do screening. It's not just the country, but it's who is the end user. Who are we sending it to? Who's that person? We have to do screening to make sure that person is not on a denied party list. There are a lot of Europeans who are on a denied party list. Yes, yes, yes. If the Middle East comes in the front, but there's a lot of Europeans who they're like, let alone export, they can't even come to the United States. So that's why we use our screening system to make sure that we screen every individual that you come interact with as a US citizen, do business with, because they're like, okay, if you say, I'm not doing trade with them, I'm just talking. They're like, here you go, this person is in a denied list, you're putting the United States in risk, with national security, and then they just kind of like, if they throw national security at you, there's very much they can do. But if you show them ahead of time that you're complying, two of the things that we do is import compliance program and export compliance program. So the import compliance program is just intense, like pages, takes about 50 to 60 hours where I'm like from the beginning to end, where I'm creating a procedure, a manual for your business to make sure that you're complying with all the US government agencies. So if the time comes when the US government is coming for you, you could be like, look, I am an importer, I did this, I followed your regulation, look at this manual, I actually did the work, I hired a licensed broker, a risk mitigator. When they see that, they're a lot more lenient. They might not even punish you. They will give you a warning and be like, all right, this is what you need to do next time. Same thing with the export compliance program, where if that guy, if you had followed the export compliance program and was honest about what he was doing, he wouldn't have been charged the $1.1 million and he wouldn't have been in jail or prison for 8 years. So they just want to know that you're doing your due diligence, and you need to be able to show that. I work in the preventative sector where we're going to do everything we can to show that we're in compliance, so when they're coming for you, it's like you have something to defend yourself. The only thing left for me to be, from being a lawyer, is just getting my JD, because the customs brokerage is regulations, laws, so I'm defending you, but with the broker license instead of like the international law. But inshallah, that will be one day.
Well, on that note, I know like the whole point of this is to kind of focus on like the customs broker aspect, but do you also do like consulting as far as like, I know you mentioned if somebody wants to bring somebody from like maybe back home or a different country into America to work for their business, do you do consulting in that aspect as well, or like?
Yes, it's not advertised, but yes, but when so companies can bring people from overseas to the United States as their employer, as their employee through U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. If you're already an established company, the USCIS, they can just give you like a blank kind of visa in a way to petition individuals to come work for you. But you have to be able to show that the people in the United States cannot meet the standards. That's why that person from overseas is highly qualified, and that's why you're bringing them in the United States to work for you. And that's usually the H-1B visas. And those H-1B visas can turn into green cards. It's pretty easy. But that's diverting from our actual thing, but good question.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Yes, as an importer business,
Mhm.
you need to establish a, special company for importing, products from, outside the US, or, if you just have, established business already, that's considered, you can, import products into the US.
Yes.
Or do you need a special company? That's, the first part. The second part, if you have like, home-based business here, in the US, can you still import, products into, the US, although, for example, it might be, food with, US Customs, or, if they ask, hey, how's the storage, situation at your home, or you need to actually have a commercial, business in order for you to bring food products into the US?
Great questions. So importers, anybody who brings anything to the United States, personal or commercial, you're considered an importer. You're not required to establish a company. So where establishing a company comes in is when the IRS is involved and you're filing your taxes. So if you do it as a one solo owner, you pay a lot more taxes. But if you do an LLC, you pay a lot less taxes, because we're protected, right? And then the second thing is if you have a home-based business, forget the international thing for a minute. You need to get FDA approval for any edible, something you drink, you need to get those kind of approval. Your home has to be approved for that. If your home is not approved, then you do need to get a commercial space to be able to sell those products, store them. And then when it comes to the international, because you already met the US regulation here, it will be easier to bring it into the United States.
So if you meet the county, for example, you are an established business, you are, approved by the state, by the county, would, FDA would, at some point would, get in, just because you have, shipment, coming from, outside, the US, would they question, hey, this is food, it meets, for example, the requirements, would they, investigate further into, hey, it does your home or your business meets, other requirements?
Yes, if they do that before even whether you import or not, if you're selling food or drinks to people, they're gonna investigate you anyway. And like I said, people love to talk. So the moment you say I'm gonna get away with this, it's like something happens, it's like the whole government agency hears you. Just go ahead and do your due diligence, get approval, and then just do your business. Because the people who say they're never gonna catch me are the ones that are caught every single day, that are like, oh, Sumaya, I need your help, what do I do now? How do I get out of this? So if you say that you're not gonna get away with it, you're gonna get caught. That's number one I'm learning. Oh my God, this is so amazing. I'm really excited to answer all your questions. If by any chance, would you guys be interested in another session of importing, but in depth, maybe a small class?
Yeah.
Like a product specific?
Yes.
Yeah?
Okay, great.
Yes.
No, I was.
You're agreeing? Okay, next time we're gonna have more time to do marketing and bring people together and maybe snacks, croissants or something.
I'll bring
And
the
water.
I'll bring the coffee.
Yeah, okay.
I'll bring free coffee.
And who's volunteering to bring the croissants? No?
I can do croissants.
You can do croissant? Okay, sounds good. Okay, we'll just do that and then we get to learn from each other. I'm really excited to be able to help my community. I'm so glad you guys showed up. I'm so happy that you guys are here. Please, if you didn't sign up, please sign up here. You're gonna send newsletters, letting you know of any updates that you need to be aware of, any scammers, or any ways to save money, or countries that are on a restricted list, because they add it every single day. We'll be able to update you so that you stay safe, you get your business ready, and then when the handbooks are published on our website, we'll be able to let you know, hey, they're ready. And then when I host these live webinars, if people sign up and show up, they get the books, the e-handbooks for free at the end of the webinar because they showed up. They get it for the next few days, and then after that, they don't have to purchase.
Are your webinars on LinkedIn?
Yes, they get posted, because now that I got everybody's email, this is really good, then I'll just put it in an email letting you know this is gonna be on LinkedIn this week, this time, or like on YouTube, Facebook, so we wanna run live all at the same time. So you guys have access to all social media accounts. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Please, if you didn't sign up, please sign up and make your handwriting legible. Thank you. So I could actually send you emails. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. Well, at least I'll start here. I'll give you my business card, but I'll also give you guys the brochure. Signing off now. Do you want to start?
في هذا turn it off.
Maya. She's like, I don't know my question. Maya. Maya.
Pause it for me. Thank you. Yes,